Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Squirrel Brain Stories. I am Adria, and
I'm Angela.
it's good to see you guys again. Today we have a little bit of a message we wanted to give before we really get started and pick up where we left off last time. When you guys hear this, it will be end of November, but today is actually just 2 days after our first episode released. And Angela, you've had some feedback already, yeah?
I have starting to gain a little bit of hate, but
You're
also
ruffling some feathers.
I am. People don't want the truth out, which, already shows that I'm making an impact with just one episode, which is amazing because I feel like all of this stuff is stuff people need to hear. This happened right in the heart of Portland, 2 blocks away from Portland Providence Hospital. 3 houses that were a block away from each other, probably totaling around 250 people. Not all of them lived there, but in each house there was at least 60 people.
Yeah.
So my main message today, after some of the feedback I've gotten, child abuse is fucking scary and it shouldn't happen. Today I was looking at data. 90% of sex offenders are known members to the family. Known people to the family, either family members or people in the community that is known by the child or the family. 30 to 40% from that 90% is direct family members, whether it be a parent or an uncle. And 50% of that is people, pillars of the community, people, coaches, teachers, people that your kids are around that you may trust with your children, and there is no supervision. And with my experience with my own daughters, and us having to go through a traumatic event when they were little, never doubt when your children come to you. If your children come to you, that took lots of courage, and you should never brush off any concern that your child comes to you, especially if it's something about someone touching them inappropriately. And it happens too often. We're in the fucking boomer society mentality still, where it's their fault or it's a lie or just brush it on the rug, don't make the family look bad. And that is complete bullshit. We need to protect our children. And you don't want to carry the guilt that comes with the feeling of not being able to protect your children, your innocent children. And
I don't know if those people sincerely feel guilt.
Well, the parents, when they...
I don't know if they feel guilt. If you are actively protecting a predator, I don't think there's any guilt in that.
Well, no, protecting your children.
Oh, yeah. Those are the ones that want to protect them. But a lot of the time what we see is, you talked about boomer mentality. It's the people who would rather a child suffer than to tell the truth about grandpa.
Mm-hmm. Don't make grandpa look bad.
Exactly. Who would rather have generations of kids be abused at the hands of the patriarch of the family or that weird uncle that everybody feels uncomfortable around. They would rather have kids suffer and have lifelong trauma than just to stand up and say, this is wrong and we're going to turn you in and we're going to put a stop to this.
Yeah, we need to break the cycle of abuse because it just continues to repeat and repeat. I mean, my aunts and my mother was a victim of abuse from their own parents, and this cycle just repeats and repeats. I was a victim. My grandpa had cameras in the bathroom and he would record me and my aunts, all of us using the bathroom when we would go and visit. And this wasn't discovered till years later, but we need to protect our children. And if your children ever come, never doubt your child. It took so much pain and strength to be able to come and tell you that it should not be brushed off lightly. It shouldn't. We need to break the cycle of abuse.
And it truly starts in early childhood with making sure you set healthy boundaries and teaching your children how to set healthy boundaries.
Yes, exactly. Because when I was growing up, I never learned in school that no one is supposed to be touching you in your private parts, your no square. I didn't even learn about the whole no square until 3 years ago when my husband told me about the no song.
Oh, no. See, I'm very much, that's a penis, that's a vagina, that's your chest, and people don't touch that. Like, if somebody's changing you, helping you wipe, helping you shower, that is one thing. But if it's,
Yeah.
And parents don't ask enough questions.
Yes.
They really don't.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it could be avoided if parents just sought answers every once in a while. Like, hey, how's everything going? How's baseball practice? How's time at your grandpa's?
Yeah. Have better communication with your children and teach them that they can trust you. And by, how they're not going to earn your trust unless you give them reasons to earn your trust. You have to actually parent, be present, care about them, ask about them, be interested in what they're interested in.
And stop thinking it can never happen to your family.
Yeah, it can happen to anyone.
It can happen to anyone from anyone.
Yeah, when I was looking up the CDC data on the abuse statistics earlier, the latest statistics they have were from 2022. But in 2022, yeah, I know CDC is not very updated, but based off of 2022, over 900,000 children were abused in 2022, sexually abused. And that's directly from the CDC data. This could be prevented if we learn to look out for the red flags. Once one red flag, okay, just be watchful. 2 red flags, I don't believe in coincidences. If something doesn't feel right, see something, say something, speak up, it's.
Yeah. And there's one person in particular who's very upset with you.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're listening, I'm so happy you're upset. I really am. I hope you die mad. And yeah, we're not going to stop.
Nope.
You're not going to stop.
Nope. You're just making us stronger because we know we're making an impact.
Yeah. And I hope you're shaken. I hope you are feeling so much fear at having that mask ripped off.
Yep. You're not hiding in the shadows anymore.
No.
And we're done with that era. Angela's back, bitches.
Yeah. This is all about what our generation is all about. Ending those toxic cycles that our parents grew up with and we grew up with, where we sweep everything under the rug and just cross our fingers that someone changes just because they think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. I want to break the cycle. I'm doing everything in my power to break that cycle. Yes, my older children all have been exposed to this violence. My youngest son has been exposed for a couple of years, but I'm hoping that things were ended in time. He's growing up into a great young man, and I'm hoping I broke that cycle of abuse and he will become a great member of society and a great father and husband one day. And that's my goal for all of my children. Break the cycle of abuse. Do not continue it with your own family, because it will stay in generations. It will stick around. It's not going anywhere if we don't stop it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's all we wanted to say about that. Nice little feedback we've been getting.
Empowering.
Yes. So where we left off last time, you just got married to the Smurf. And I really want to talk about what that marriage looked like. I know a lot happened within it. So just kind of start me at the beginning. So you got married, and we did a little bit of research. Our wonderful producer Buck did, and I guess for lack of a better term, Romeo and Juliet laws in Idaho are 3 years. So you're allowed to have a 3-year age difference, but you were 16 and he was 20. So right off the bat, you were failed by the court system, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have a young woman who is still a teenager, still a minor. You have a young man who is sneezing at 21. He's a couple of days away. It is beyond that 3 years that's allowed. You guys don't even live in the state, and you're there getting married. He tries to kill you your first night married, right? Because I wholeheartedly believe there's like kinky choking, which is like fine, consensual, whatever. But anything outside of that, you are trying to kill someone. And I don't think anyone can ever convince me otherwise. So he tries to kill you that first night. And then you guys come back to Portland. And what happens when you get back? What kind of man is he when you get back? Because he's already showed you he's violent. So how does this continue to spiral in the time between getting back and getting pregnant with your first son?
And when we got back, we were given a temporary room until a different room was ready. And just the control, the controlling aspect started setting in. The physical abuse besides the choking, the physical abuse didn't start maybe for a month or two into the marriage. But there was definitely psychological and emotional abuse. He degraded me, made me ashamed of my weight always, controlled what I wore. I couldn't wear pants because it was too revealing.
Well, but that was pretty standard for being in the cult itself, right?
Yeah.
That pants just weren't allowed. They weren't ladylike.
Yeah, but one time I got a pair in donation, and I thought because it came in donation, because donation was clothes that other women donated, they'd put a box out in the hallway. It's like, here, anyone, you can take something out of here if you want. So they came through donations from people in the house. And so I saw a pair of pants. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can wear these because they were in donation. Oh, no, not allowed. I got in so much trouble for that. It was pretty horrible. The time went by and he started to get physically abusive. He started hitting me. He sodomized me one time. And what I knew, I never reported it. I never said anything today. My husband, Buck, he just learned about it for the first time last night when I told him. My friend Adria just, heard about it today. Mm-hmm. Because we were trained to be submissive and obedient wives. And they were pulling that directly from the Bible, quoting the Bible that a wife is basically supposed to do whatever. She's basically a slave to her husband.
Yeah.
So, who am I going to tell? How am I going to stop him?
And who would give a shit? Because you have your like house mom that helped bring you in, and she's still there to this day, correct? She's still an active member within the cult?
No, she separated from the cult after the main leader was arrested in Hawaii.
Okay.
But she is in I think a similar churchy home situation.
That's right.
Is the kind of the vibe that I got. But I don't know specifics of her situation.
Well, I brought her up to say you have authority figures that helped bring you into this cult, helped teach you the rules that are telling you whatever happens in there, it's either okay or it's your fault. It doesn't really seem like there's any deviation from those things. Either there's nothing wrong with what's happening or you're being punished because you stepped out of line and you should have known better.
Yeah. No, that's exactly.
Do you want to go into detail about the sodomy? You do not have to. That is not something we have to touch on.
Well, he, forced himself onto me and, had his way with me. And I was trying to push him off. And then I just gave up because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be obedient. I'm his property. He can do whatever he wants with me.
If you guys didn't know, spousal rape is a thing, and you're allowed to say no to your husband. You're allowed to say no to your wife. You're allowed to say no to anybody, and no is a complete sentence.
Yeah. And it's about consent. I mean, now that I'm an adult and I know, a lot more, it doesn't matter if you're married or not. Consent is 100% a thing. There has to be mutual consent. Otherwise, it should not happen.
Anything other than an enthusiastic yes is a no.
Mm-hmm.
And, that goes right back into what are we teaching our kids that we didn't hear as kids? Because I never heard that.
Oh, no.
We talked about, don't let people touch you, but it wasn't as you get older and you start having sex, anything other than an enthusiastic yes is a no.
No, I wasn't even taught about not letting people touch you. I mean, that's how well I was parented. I didn't know that there was a no square. I had boys that were touching my private parts when I was 10 years old. I didn't know any better. They were my friends. They were our neighbor friends. It was me and a few other girls, and the boys would come and play with us. Yeah. There was no intercourse, but, they'd put their finger in us or put an ice cube in us.
That whole playing doctor thing. That's what they used to call it. Like when kids are sexually exploring, it's playing doctor, and everybody, oh yeah, kids are curious. Kids are this, kids are that. Kids learn that shit. If your kids are playing doctor, you need to ask some fucking questions.
Yeah. I agree. It's not normal behavior, that's for sure.
No, and you've had all of this in your background, and then you have this horrid husband who is raping you within the marriage, and it sounds like pretty early on into the marriage. At what point do you fall pregnant with your first son?
I probably was pregnant within 6 months of being married.
Okay.
Yeah. And probably, it wasn't too soon and it wasn't too late into the marriage when he became physically abusive. And, there's this one time, a lot of times it would just be like a slap and, I deserved it, at least that's what I was taught, and then it just started escalating and just being more attacked, just attacked. One time I was pregnant and we lived in this room in one of the houses. We had this room and it had, I think it used to be like a den or a family room and it had a big sliding door on it. And he slammed the sliding door, and the sliding door actually fell off the hinge into the hallway. And he starts hitting me and pushing me, and I'm screaming and crying. And the leader's wife comes running down the stairs, and she just stands there in my doorway watching him beat me. And I'm here pregnant. And no one comes to tell him to stop. The kitchen was right next. I don't know why no one else came to see, but she was the only one standing there. But you could hear that there was fighting going on.
Well, and I know we kind of touched on this a little bit before in a previous episode, when you had the instance of the guy rubbing up on you and groping you in the kitchen, and there being all the women around and just no one taking action, no one saying anything. Do you think that was just another instance of, if I intervene, we're both fucked, as opposed to if I stay silent and out of the way and just let this play out, she's the only one getting hurt?
I think a lot of it has to do with the cultural difference. Because in Mexico, this is common. Women are killed by their husbands in other countries. Not that it doesn't happen in the United States, but abuse within families is so rampant in Mexico that they just saw this as normal.
It's just a Monday morning.
Mm-hmm. So there was that incident, and it just escalated. It was horrible. He'd go on all these trips with a guy, him and his friend. They'd go up to Victoria, BC, and go to Seattle. They'd go on these trips, and he'd just leave me there by myself, wouldn't want to take me.
And what was he doing?
He never said. Sightseeing.
But you know what he was doing.
Oh, I know now. Yeah.
What was he doing?
I'm pretty sure he was having fun with other guys.
Yeah. Raping his wife, sleeping with other men. Mm-hmm. Came home with something dirty.
Yep. Send me to go get HIV tested.
You're safe.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yes.
Because I would have killed someone.
Him, preferably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man. I still count my blessings every day with that.
Yeah.
Because that would have totally ruined my life even more than it already was,
Well, we're lucky that we live in 2025, and a lot of the stigma and lack of support around that has been removed. Mm-hmm. I think there's some medications and treatments out there that can get it to basically the point where it's undetectable. So it's not the death sentence that we heard about, back in the 80s when it was really going around, oh, this is the worst thing that can ever happen to you. But yeah, it would have been shitty.
Yeah.
Sorry, my aunt died of it because her husband gave it to her on purpose.
Oh, shit.
He knew he was HIV positive and didn't tell it, and she died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Shitty. Fuck.
Yeah.
I hope he died too.
I don't know. It's one of those things we don't talk about. Nobody wants to talk about the dark shit that happens in the family.
Just brush it under the rug. Don't make the family look bad.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't, I don't even know if it was that. It was just everyone was dumbstruck.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he would have told you. Or did he tell you that he contracted something?
Yeah, well, he came back from Mexico one time and got really sick and finally went to the doctor, and they told him he had something, and then he told me that I needed to go get tested. So I got tested there like every few months for a while because I was scared shitless.
Yeah, because it might take a little while to show up.
Yeah, and I have kids to worry about. Like, I'm not dealing with that shit.
Yeah.
I got babies, and no.
Were you guys intimate at all after that?
Nope. We actually slept in separate rooms. He slept with the brothers in the brothers' room.
Huh.
But that was at the tail end of the marriage. So once the abuse started and he was going on these, he'd leave for a whole weekend, and I'm here pregnant. The only thing I have in my little fridge in our bedroom is whatever I got from WIC. So I have cheese, some milk, some eggs, some Cheerios, maybe some beans,
Yeah.
and whatever I had from WIC was whatever I had. But it, and when I had my cooking day, I would use some of my WIC stuff, so it didn't really last that long. And I have nothing but those concha breads, those round breads.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I hate them now. I will not eat one for the rest of my life.
My dad feels that way about fried chicken.
And then cup of noodles. Like, that's what I would live on for a whole weekend. Cup of noodles and conchas. Yeah. Unless I wanted to eat cake, expired cake that we got through donations. Because whatever we got, you guys heard earlier in the earlier episode about all the donations we would get. But let me just set something straight here. All that shit that we got was all expired stuff.
Yeah, no, let's make it clear. Anytime there's a food donation from any type of place, even for the companies I worked at, it was whatever we didn't sell the previous day got left in a bin overnight, and somebody would come get it in the morning. Like, it was old shit we're not allowed to sell anymore. Yeah. It just had to go.
And that was the stuff we get, half rotten vegetables and fruit. Yep. And then all of this expired stuff.
Yeah.
So not a healthy diet for anyone.
No, let alone a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
But I am curious I can't recall them off the top of my head, but the statistics of domestic violence are that the most dangerous time to be a woman in an abusive relationship is when you're trying to leave, right after you leave, and during pregnancy. So when you're pregnant, it sounds like the abuse just kind of goes from maybe 10 to 100. It sounds like he gets way more violent. Was he even excited about the pregnancy? Was it something that he wanted?
It seemed like he was, but I think that it was to validate his marriage more than anything. That, like, yes, he was actually interested. It was more of a facade.
Kind of like a beard.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, he really does like women because now he's having a kid,
Yeah.
I think it was all a show. There was no love in that marriage.
No, certainly. You cannot love someone and rape them. You cannot love someone and beat them. I don't care. I don't care. Don't at me. If someone is beating the shit out of you, if they are raping you, that is not love.
Yeah. And so there were a few times where when he would be gone on these trips, there was a couple of times I would be sitting in the rocking chair in my room and just so desperate for it to all end. And I would have a razor blade and I would be contemplating cutting my wrist because I just wanted to get out of the situation. And that seemed like it was my only escape. And my only thing that held me back was, I was excited for my baby boy. I didn't want anything to happen to him. And he was what gave me strength to just keep it together,
Yeah.
When I went to go deliver him, the nurses saw the bruises all up and down my arms. And this was at Legacy Good Samaritan Hospital. I went in labor, so I went to the hospital. There was probably about 10 people there. I didn't have any say in who was at my delivery. Whoever wanted to come, came. It was crazy. There was even kids. The leader's wife was there. She was a psychiatric nurse at this hospital. And the nurses asked me in front of him, the prearranged husband, what happened to me. And I told them that I was moving stuff around in my room and a box fell off of a shelf across both of my arms. But you could tell that they were finger marks. It was obvious.
And I'm going to pause you right there. If there are any medical professionals listening to this, I know times have changed and they're overall a lot better at this. Please don't ask someone that you think is a victim of abuse, sexual assault, what's going on in front of someone who may be their abuser.
Like, who the fuck does that?
Please don't. You not only set them up to be forced to lie to you, but you probably set them up to get the shit kicked out of them by the time they get home. Because yet again, you've made something their fault, because if they had just behaved, they wouldn't have gone into the hospital covered in bruises, right? Mm-hmm. And then questions wouldn't have been asked, and then you wouldn't have almost been exposed. So just please, if you really want to help, just do it privately.
And I don't know if that nurse had any sway, and that's why, oh, she's with us, so she's fine. I don't know if this nurse, the cult's leader, had any sway in...
Oh, yeah, they probably knew each other.
And, them not doing anything. But the next day before I was discharged, another person came to ask more questions. And having worked on the mother-baby unit as I have in a hospital, and what I've seen, the first person that comes and asks you questions is the social worker. And usually the second person that comes and asks you questions is the DHS caseworker, at least from what I've seen. And so the second day, someone comes and asks me more questions about what happened and is my home environment safe and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what they failed to do? They failed to remove my abuser from the room once again. So thank you guys, for failing me fucking massively.
Yeah.
And my children, for that matter.
And we talked a little bit about this before we got on today, about people needing to just ask a couple of extra questions. So at so many points, in your story, you could have been removed from these situations if people had just asked one or two exploratory questions.
Yeah, I mean, I would go to my prenatal visits and I had bruises on me that were visible because I was pregnant during the summertime.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, my arms are visible. It's hot. I'm wearing a t-shirt or whatever. Multiple times, you know, my bruises are visible and no one even questioned anything on multiple levels. Just no one cared. It's not their business.
Exactly. It's easier to just get you in and out. And, we talked a little bit about it. My husband, with his cancer diagnosis, had the doctors here just asked a few questions about why did a relatively healthy 34-year-old man have a massive heart attack. Maybe we could have caught the cancer sooner.
Yeah.
If somebody had just taken a moment to go, something doesn't quite feel right here.
Dig a little deeper.
Dig just a little bit deeper. Just pretend to care for a minute.
Yeah. No, I agree.
No, you were failed at many, many, many points. And it's frustrating to look back and see that.
No, I know. It's frustrating for me too, because my life could have been so much different. And yes, I always say, I am who I am because of what I've gone through. But still, there's no reason why I should have ever suffered all of those things as a child that I suffered, all of the neglect, all of the abuse, all of that stuff. There's no reason why a child should have to go through those things.
It was a result of people who did not want children having children anyway. I think that's really all child abuse and neglect comes down to, is at your core, you didn't want kids. Because if you wanted kids, you wouldn't neglect them. You wouldn't abuse them.
Yes.
You would just love them. If you're frustrated, you would go find an outlet that's not your kid.
Get a punching bag.
I mean, you've met my 2-year-old. He is psychotic. Drives me up the wall. But I'm not going to smack him around for being a kid. He's a kid.
Yeah. And innocence shouldn't be taken away from kids.
No, certainly not.
No. So, yeah, I was married to him for 5 years. And it was, basically I was his slave. He didn't have any interest in the kids. I stopped allowing him to bathe my sons.
What prompted that?
I just felt like something wasn't right. And so I wouldn't let him bathe the kids anymore. And the abuse just continued. I think at some point, once the kids got old enough, they started to get abused by him. Spanking with hangers and, those kind of things for toddlers, It was just very controlling. Just every aspect, what I thought, what I wore, where I went, who I spoke to, who held the kids. Only certain people were allowed to hold the kids. His older brother, I always thought that it was odd. He would never, the kids were not allowed to be held by his older brother. Yeah, I think there was abuse that happened in their family by their dad. I think their dad sexually abused the kids in his family.
I want to circle back to you in your gut feeling like he can't bathe his own children, because that is incredibly important. And too often we ignore our gut when it tells us something is wrong, even if we can't name it, even if we can't see it. When we get that feeling in the pit of our stomach, especially as mothers, we have to recognize it, and we have to honor it, and we have to follow it. We have to ask those questions and take action. So was there anything you actually saw that you think gave you that feeling, or was it just kind of?
The one time he, like I said, he wasn't very invested in the family at all, barely spent time with us when he was even home from work. It was mainly with the brothers and, going out and, whatever. I don't even know what the fuck.
Yeah.
There'd be times where, like I want to take a shower for a whole week because I had my kids and no one would watch them. And, but yeah, there was one time where he took my son to get a bath. And when he brought my son back, around his butthole was like red, like he had been scrubbing it really hard with the washcloth or something. And I didn't feel right about that.
The way that my heart just dropped into my stomach. Yeah, I don't blame you for not feeling right about that.
Yeah. And, the only thing I knew to do was just not let him give him a bath anymore. That was my way of my protecting him, because that was all I knew, and that was all I had power to do.
Because at this point, are you working at this point?
Nope.
No. So you
Women
still
weren't allowed
have
to work.
no access to finances. You have no access to the outside world. You can't go to your family because we've already established your family sucks. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, they yeah, they suck massively.
And they would have just sent you back.
Oh, yeah. They didn't want me. That was obvious.
Well, it's not even that they didn't want you. They just
didn't
care enough to be like, hey, her kid's getting hurt. Maybe we should help. Maybe we did something wrong in sending her here. Yeah.
They still
admit fault. Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, to this day, they still didn't do anything wrong.
No, of course not. You're the liar. You're the attention seeker. We're making all this up. Right?
I wish I could get my records from the hospital to get all those social worker notes. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
Doubters, I'll prove this shit.
I mean, you honestly might be able to. They're your records.
Yeah.
I don't see why you can't call.
I don't know. I mean, that was before the digital age, but I'm sure they have records scanned in, because you don't just get rid of records, Usually you send them to Iron Mountain and they scan them in.
Yeah. It might be worth a shot.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. It might be good.
Yeah.
I like evidence. Evidence makes me happy.
Yeah. Evidence makes everybody happy. And also it just may be validating.
Yes.
Like, I lived through this. You survived all that, and now you're here, and you're you, and you're fantastic, and your life is beautiful, and you're a powerful human being.
Thank you. So after all of that stuff, we ended up in a different room because they had obtained the third house. And so the main leader moved down to the third house, and we got his old room, although it was still filled with all of their crap. But that was the room that we were moved to with the prearranged husband and my little son, my baby. So we were staying up in this room for a while. And one day there's like all this commotion going on, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? So like I go kind of, snooping around, see what I can find out, why is everyone going into my old room, the room with the sliding door? Why is everyone, the main leaders, there was probably 4 or 5 leaders that went into this room with the main leader. And so I'm like, what's going on? And finally I asked someone, I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, they saw a memo coming out of, and I can use his name because he has actually been charged, and we'll show his page and his charges here at some point on the podcast. But I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, they saw him coming out of the bathroom with one of the little girls, and she was probably 8 to 10 years old. And so that was the big commotion going on. They were calling him out in this meeting and probably having him repent. He's putting on his big show. He's repented. That same fucking day, he's back to giving Bible studies. Nothing changed. No police were reported, nothing.
I am sincerely shocked that they said anything to him at all. Like, really and truly, because, like you said, nothing was done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what the show was for.
I don't know. It might have been more for like a power grab. I don't know. I mean, why go about this big old thing with the meeting to not even do anything, you know?
Yeah. And what does repenting even look like?
Like that girl was still, oh, what does repenting look like?
Yeah. Is it like 10 Hail Marys, a pat on the ass, and you're good to go? You get back into heaven? You're fine now?
Yeah. You confess your sin and you acknowledge what you did was wrong, and now you've changed.
In 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that tracks.
But nothing did change because he still had access, you know, to this young girl for many, many, many more years, you know?
And I was just going to ask, what happened to her? Did anybody comfort her? Did they take her to the hospital? Was she separated from him?
Nope. It was all brushed under the rug like it never happened.
So a victim still forced to be in close proximity to their abuser, still not protected by the adults who should be protecting them.
Yeah. So shortly after this, I don't exactly know what happened. He moved to the king's house, which is what they called the third house. It was the king's house. And so that's where he lived now with his family. At this point, he had like 4 kids with his wife, who was the nurse. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if anything happened, but at some point, the prearranged husband's like, we're moving. And I'm like, okay. And so we moved to this one house that we're renting for a little while, and we're there for maybe like a year. My second son is born while I'm there. At some point, the main leader takes a bunch of the people to Hawaii and starts up a cult in Hawaii. And then he was asked for us to go back because he was trained as the protege. So he was the new rising leader to follow in the footsteps. So he was a pastor.
Yeah.
No Bible college or anything like this. But the one main leader, he had graduated from Multnomah Bible College up in Portland, Oregon. So he was like an official, you know, pastor.
He had his theology degree. He was ready to be employed by whatever church he set foot into if they wanted it.
Yeah. So I don't know, you know, at some point they reached out and he was asked to go back and take lead of the king's house and be in charge of it. And so we moved back to the king's house, and there were people living there, and he just kind of took over and ran the church.
Now, the place that you guys were living when your second son was born, was that also owned by the cult, or did you guys actually strike out on your own? He was working, you guys had your own money, and you had that sense of, we no longer live within the cult.
Yeah. And I actually was able to get a job finally. I was 6 months pregnant when I started my job. I was working at a nursing home, cleaning asses.
Yeah, you know what? You do what you gotta do.
Oh man, that was rough, man. It was crazy because it was hard. Like I'd be gagging, wiping people's asses, you know?
Yeah. But in that position you were in, you did what you had to do.
Yeah, it was better than being at home.
Being at home, being financially abused, physically abused, sexually abused.
Mm-hmm. So I did my year at the nursing home. And once I got to my year of working at the nursing home, because I became a certified nursing assistant.
Okay.
And the nursing home paid for my course and all that. And I think there was some sort of requirement that you had to work for them for a year. But also I wanted to get a job at a better place since I was now allowed to work. And so once I got to my year, that was also the requirement for OHSU. They wanted a year of experience before, you know, they would hire someone. So once I got my year, I applied up at OHSU and ended up working at OHSU. And while I was working there, I kept, as time went by, I made friendships with the nurses. The nurses were all really nice. And they're kind of what led to my path of freedom.
Yeah.
They started to open my eyes, and like they started talking about credit reports, and I'm like, what's a credit report?
Yeah, what is financial responsibility?
Like, I don't know any of this. I didn't even finish 9th grade. I don't know what a credit report is. And like, oh, you go to this website. I'm like, well, what? Because I was just learning how to use the internet. I never had a computer. This is like my first time touching a computer besides, in school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, where do I go? How do I find this website? And so they're like, I think it probably was freecreditreport.com or something like that.
The songs were just going through my head, and I was like, don't sing it out loud. That'd be terrible.
So I went on there and I got my credit report, and I was like, wait a second, this does not look right. I don't know, it must have been like $20,000 in credit card debt with all these credit cards that I didn't even know existed. And that's when I began to start questioning things.
So I think this is a good place for us to say goodbye to our friends. And I think next time we will pick back up and really start unpacking the events that led up to you finally saying enough is enough, because it wasn't a single event. It was a series of events, right? That kind of started back when you stopped letting him bathe your sons. I think that was the beginning of it kind of taking root inside of you going, this is not right. This is not right. And I have to do something. And at the time you didn't have the means, but I think it was there. So next time we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. You guys can find us right now on Facebook at Squirrel Brain Stories. You can email us at squirrelbrainstories@gmail.com. We are always taking questions. If you guys have something you want me to ask Angela, I'm more than happy to do it.
And if, we're here to support other victims. So if you are familiar with this church and you have been this cult, and if you have been a victim, we want to be here with you, holding your hand and be your strength, be part of your strength, and, to help you get to that point where you're strong enough to start taking your own steps in the path to recovery or the path to freedom,
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone. And we will see you next time.
See you guys next week. Bye.